My name is Clara, and I'm 26 years old. Just last week, I was sitting in a stuffy lawyer's office, listening as my entire world fell apart. My older sister, Sarah, just smirked as the lawyer announced she had inherited everything. The family fortune, our childhood home, Grandpa's whole legacy, it was all hers. And what was left for me? The granddaughter who spent years by his side? Nothing but a worthless old fountain pen. It felt like a sick joke, the final twist of the knife she'd been digging into my back for years. I was about to walk out, my life in shambles, ready to just let the grief and betrayal swallow me whole. But as I stood up, my fingers numb around the pen, I noticed it. A tiny, almost invisible inscription. A tiny detail that would unravel a lifetime of lies and kickstart a plan so brilliant. It would save me from the brink and expose my sister for who she really was. Grandpa was my whole world. After our parents died in a car crash when I was 16 and Sarah was 19, he stepped in. He wasn't just our guardian, he was our anchor. But Sarah and I grieved in completely different ways. She pulled away, finding comfort in parties and a life lived as far away from our quiet, grief-stricken home as possible. I did the opposite. I drew closer to Grandpa. We became a team. I learned to cook his favorite meals, the ones Grandma used to make. I'd sit with him for hours, listening to stories about his life, the business he built from nothing, and his dreams for us. Sarah's visits started to feel like a performance. She'd show up for holidays, sweep in with a flurry of fake smiles and hugs, snap a few photos for social media, and then spend the rest of the time on her phone, making plans for her real life back in the city. She'd always bring up money, talking about how Grandpa should sell the drafty old house and move somewhere modern. She would eye the end. Grandpa would just get this sad little smile on his face and change the subject. He never said a bad word about her, at least not to me, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. When his health started to fail in his final years, I became his full-time caregiver. My own dreams of going to art school were put on hold. It wasn't a sacrifice, though. It was a choice I made out of love. I managed his meds, drove him to doctor's appointments, and read to him when he couldn't hold a book anymore. Sarah would call, of course. These quick 5-minute calls where she'd ask, "How is he?" Like she was just checking a box on her to-do list. She sent flashy flower arrangements to the hospital, gestures that looked good but didn't offer any real comfort. She was never there for the hard parts. The long nights, the fear, the vulnerability. When Grandpa finally passed, the pain was immense, but it was a clean kind of pain. The natural ache of loss. The dirty, messy pain came at the reading of the will. The lawyer, a man I'd never seen before, read the document in a flat drone. It stated that the entire Westbrook estate, the house, the investments, the business, was left to his beloved granddaughter, Sarah. My name was mentioned only once, in a single brutal line. To my granddaughter, Clara, I leave my favorite fountain pen, in the hopes that she continues to create beautiful things. Sarah put on a great show of being sad, but I could see the victory glittering in her eyes. She put a hand on my arm in a fake show of sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Clara," she whispered. "I had no idea." You know how he was at the end, so confused. The insinuation was disgusting, suggesting he wasn't in his right mind, planting a lie to cover what she'd obviously done. I was too stunned to even say anything. The lawyer handed me a small velvet box. Inside was the pen. It was beautiful, simple and the days that followed were a blur of cruelty. Sarah wasted no time. The day after the will reading, she changed the locks on our home. My home. My things, my clothes, my art supplies, my entire life, were tossed in boxes and left on the porch like trash. She posted pictures of herself online, sipping champagne in her new living room, with captions like, "Honoring Grandpa's legacy." She sold his car, the one I used to drive him in. She started talking to developers about bulldozing his rose garden to build a pool. I was completely adrift. With only a few $1,000s in savings, I found a tiny rundown studio apartment with peeling paint and a window that stared at a brick wall. Despair was a physical weight. I felt betrayed not just by my sister, but by Grandpa. How could he do this to me? How could he leave me with nothing but a pen? The question echoed in my silent, empty new life, a constant, agonizing reminder of how powerless I was. If you've ever felt completely underestimated or betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you, you know how lonely that is. If stories about finding strength when you've been wronged are your thing, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I'd also love to know where you're all watching from. It's amazing to see how far these stories travel. Alright, let's get back to it. Rock bottom is a strange place. It's dark and it's terrifying, but it's also quiet. All the noise of your old life finally fades away because there's nothing left to lose. For 2 weeks, I was in that quiet despair. I barely ate. I didn't paint. I just sat in my tiny apartment, staring at that brick wall, while the pen in its velvet box sat on my kitchen table, mocking me. I was running out of money, fast. I started selling anything of value. My laptop went first, then some jewelry my mom had left me. It felt like I was chipping away pieces of myself. One night, hungry and defeated, my eyes landed on the pen, but sentimentality was a luxury I couldn't afford. I decided to sell it. An antique pen had to be worth a few $100s, right? Enough for rent, at least. I took it out of the box. I'd avoided touching it, but now holding it, it felt familiar. It was perfectly balanced in my hand. This was the pen Grandpa used to sign every important document, the one he used to teach me calligraphy, his large, gentle hand guiding mine. Words have power, Clara, he used to say. But the hand that wields the pen has more. As I turned it over, looking for a maker's mark, my thumb brushed against the silver clip. It felt loose. I wiggled it. It wasn't loose. It moved. It wasn't a clip. It was a lever. My heart started hammering. With a click so quiet I almost missed it. A tiny seam appeared near the top of the pen. It wasn't one solid piece. My fingers, trembling now, twisted it. The pen unscrewed. Inside, where an ink cartridge should have been, was a tiny, tightly rolled cylinder of paper, sealed with a speck of wax. I carefully unrolled it. The paper was impossibly thin, and the writing was minuscule, every millimeter filled with Grandpa's elegant script. My dearest Clara, it began. If you are reading this, then I am gone, and your sister has behaved exactly as I feared. I am so sorry for the pain this must be causing you. Please know, this is not a betrayal. It is a test. And it is my final and I hope, my most brilliant plan. I knew Sarah's heart. I saw the greed she tried to hide. To leave you both equal shares would have been to condemn you to a life of fighting her. And to leave you everything outright would have put a target on your back. So, I created a puzzle only you could pass. The will she holds is real, but incomplete. It governs only the surface. The true inheritance is protected. At the end of a path, this pen is the first piece. You found the secret, which tells me your mind is still sharp. Now find the next piece. Remember our Saturday afternoons? Remember the stories I told you, not the grand adventures but the quiet failures? My biggest one. Where did I keep the memory of my greatest mistake? Trust no one. The lawyer Sarah used is her pawn. But there is a friend waiting for you, an old knight. His name is on the wall. Go now, my clever, beautiful girl. Avenge us. The hand that wields the pen has all the power. All my love. Grandpa. I read the letter 3 times, tears blurring the words. But these weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of pure, surging joy. He hadn't abandoned me. He had trusted me. The despair I'd been living in evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard diamond of determination. The clues were cryptic, but for me, they were a roadmap. The memory of my greatest mistake. Grandpa had told me that story only once. As a young man, he'd almost gone bankrupt. He kept the single share of stock from that failed company, framed, on the wall of his home office. It was a reminder, he'd told me, that you can survive anything. And on that framed certificate was the name of the law firm that helped him save his company all those years ago. Harrison and Sons. A new lawyer. An old knight. The name on the wall. It all clicked. Sarah hadn't just stolen my inheritance. She had walked right into a trap. And I was about to spring it. The next morning, I walked into the lobby of Harrison and Sons. It was the complete opposite of the flashy office Sarah's lawyer had. This place was all dark wood, leather books, and a quiet grandfather clock ticking in the corner. When I gave my name to the receptionist, she smiled. Mr. Harrison has been expecting you. Arthur Harrison was in his late 70s, with a sharp mind and a grip like a vice. He looked at me over his spectacles with warm approval. "Clara," he said, "your grandfather told me this day would come. He said you were the only one who would solve his little riddle." He slid a thick portfolio across his desk. "Your sister has been given control of the Westbrook Corporation," he began. "But what she doesn't know is that your grandfather spent the last 2 years systematically transferring the company's most valuable assets, the real estate, patents, and investments, into a series of irrevocable trusts. The Westbrook Corporation is now little more than a shell, saddled with massive debts that are about to come due." He let that sink in. "These trusts," he continued, tapping the portfolio, "are governed by a separate, primary will that names you as the sole beneficiary. However, your grandfather included a specific contingency." He opened the portfolio. "The will only becomes active when you, Clara Westbrook, present yourself to this office, with this pen, before the 30th of this month." He smiled a genuine, crinkling smile. "Today is the 29th. Your grandfather gave Sarah enough rope to hang herself, and she took it with both hands. The documents she has are legal, but what she claimed is worthless. In fact," he added with a glint in his eye, "as the new head of a company with millions in liabilities, she'll be getting calls from creditors very soon." The plan was more brilliant than I could have imagined. Grandpa hadn't just protected me. He had created a perfectly legal and exquisitely painful trap for Sarah's greed. The confrontation came 2 days later. Sarah was hosting an extravagant celebration of life party at the house, a thinly veiled excuse to show off. I wasn't invited, but Mr. Harrison assured me our presence was required. We arrived just as Sarah was giving a toast, dabbing at a crocodile tear. "To Grandpa," she was saying. "He knew I was the only one with the strength to carry on his legacy. He trusted me." "That's an interesting interpretation of trust." Mr. Harrison's voice cut through the room. The music screeched to a halt. Every head turned. Sarah's face went white. "What are you doing here?" she hissed at me. "We're here on business, Sarah," I said, my voice perfectly steady. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of her. Mr. Harrison stepped forward. "My name is Arthur Harrison. I was your grandfather's primary legal counsel for 40 years. I'm here to announce a significant development regarding the Westbrook estate." He then calmly laid out the entire truth, the trusts, the shell corporation, the contingent will. As he spoke, you could feel the mood in the room shift. Sarah's friends looked confused, our family looked shocked, and Sarah herself looked like she was going to be sick. "But the will," she stammered. "It said I inherited everything." "It said you inherited the Westbrook Corporation," Mr. Harrison corrected gently. "Which you have. Along with its considerable debts, which are now your problem. The actual assets, the fortune, this house, all of it belongs to Clara." The silence was deafening. Sarah just stared at me, her face a mask of pure, unfiltered hatred. It was over. The fallout was swift. The creditors came calling. Facing financial ruin and public humiliation, Sarah had to declare bankruptcy. Her new friends vanished. She had to sell everything. The last I heard, she was working a low-wage job in a small town a few states away, living in an apartment not so different from the one she'd forced me into. She got exactly what she deserved. It's been a year. I didn't sell the house. It's my home now, filled with light and the smell of oil paint. I enrolled in the art school I'd always dreamed of. I used the resources Grandpa left me to live a life of purpose, starting the Westbrook Foundation, a charity that gives scholarships to young, underprivileged artists. I kept Grandpa's pen. It sits on my desk in a place of honor. It's not a symbol of betrayal anymore. It's a symbol of his love, his wisdom, and his unwavering faith in me. He didn't just leave me an inheritance, he left me a lesson. That true worth isn't measured in dollars, but in character. And that sometimes, the most powerful thing you can have is a story that's waiting to be written. My grandfather's plan was complex, but his reason was simple: to protect the person he loved. It makes me wonder, would you rather inherit a fortune with no strings attached, or be given a test that proves you deserve it? Let me know what you think in the comments.